Hello, my name is Matthias and welcome to the FPL Scope and this video where I'm going to take a look at how my zombie squad for the 2023-2024 season is doing currently. Before the start of the season, I made a squad of 15 players as you always do in FPL, and the squad was designed to fit for the whole season. No changes, no transfers, no chips used, no nothing. Just have the same squad from start to finish and see how well it does. And I didn't make the squad as an actual team, but I just have kept tabs on it, and I'm going to go through the last few game weeks since the last update that I had from game week 20, I think. Or I know, because we're going to go from game week 21 until game week 28 now, which is almost finished. I just finished watching Chelsea, and we can now see how the team has done so far this season. Then at the end of the video, I'm also going to take a look at the best possible zombie team you could have chosen at this point of the season after 28 game weeks. How does it stack up to everyone else? Could it potentially win FPL without a single transfer? Could you have done that at this moment in time, be number one in FPL without doing a single change? You're going to get that answer at the end of this video, so stay tuned for that. But let's move on to game week 21, which is where we left off the zombie squad last time around with my team. I'm just also going to look up on my phone here, game week 21, just to see what happened in that game week. And that was a pretty long game week because that was the January game week, which was lasting for two weeks, I think. So it was a pretty interesting game week in general. And it was a pretty good game week for the team, for the zombie squad, basically. So you can see the team here. I didn't really present the team, but yeah, you can see the team here and the prices for all the players. I felt pretty happy about this team at the start of the season, obviously. That's why I chose it. But there's been some injuries. There's been some not so well-performing players. There have been some dropped players as well, like Diaby, for example, who looked really good at the start of the season, and then he was dropped. Estepinian as well has been injured, and then now he's been dropped and been sort of in and out of the team. But yeah, let's just go through the team first before we sort of wrap up the whole team towards the end of the video as well. Game week 21, massive game week for the zombie squad, basically 74 points, and a lot of that is the vice captain Martinelli, who got 14 points, and double that means that he got 28 points from Holland being captain and being subbed off or auto subbed off. Holland was out from game week 16 until game week 21, I think. So it was nice to get finally a pretty good vice captain score from Martinelli. This was around the time where Arsenal really started to play really well this season, basically in 2024. As you can see from Gabriel getting 17 points as well. This was the 5-0 game against Crystal Palace, where Gabriel scored a goal, had an assist as well. And then Martinelli had 2 goals really late in the game after coming on as a substitute, which was really nice. This was also around the time when Estepinian was back in the squad for Brighton, and he looked really good, and he was a really popular asset at that point in time as well. A lot of people brought him in. 8 points in this game week, really nice to get from Estepinian. And then 7 points from Rashford, which is really nice. Rashford actually has a couple decent scores. He hasn't been too bad, actually. I might actually look through how well he's doing in terms of the midfielders, because I think he's not the worst. He has not had a good season. Yeah, he's not really had a good season, but he's over the likes of Kudus, Alanga, about the same as Diaby, basically, for points this season. Better than Neto, better than Decore, better than Trossard, and Mbuemo, obviously, who's been injured. Better than Madison, I don't know. Mostly it's injured players behind Rashford, but yeah, he's had a couple decent scores, so you can't really count him out either. So he produced 7 points in this game week, and that helped me, or helped this zombie team at least, get 74 points in total, which was a really nice game week in general. So let's move on to the next game week in game week 21, or game week 22, I should say. And in game week 22, let's take a look back at game week 22. 7 points from Madison is nice, 10 points from Saka. This is the point, like I said, where Arsenal really turned it on, and Saka was really good. But the one huge downside to this game week, as you can see, is the bench. 13 points from Alvarez, 10 points from Udogie. But this was the point where Chilwell was back, Estepinian was back, Madison was back, everyone played, basically. And this was not the game week for that to be the case. Because, yeah, Alvarez with 13 points, Udogie with 10 points on the bench. Feels really bad to not get those guys in, but at the same time, that's what happens with the zombie squad. You can't sub those guys in when they have better fixtures than most people. Estepinian with 0 points. This was the start of the downturn for Estepinian. Chilwell came back and basically has been terrible since he came back, and then now he's injured again. Guardiola as well has been in and out of the team, has had a couple of injuries. Lately, he's not been performing that well either. And Holland with the 1-pointer as he returned in game week 22 from his injury. So yeah, not the best game week here in game 22, 37 points, but we'd still move on to game 23. Game 23, a nice 8-pointer from Onana, who's actually been a really good goalkeeper. I think he is actually the number one goalkeeper currently in FPL, which is kind of crazy. I did sort of expect it at the start of the season. I did think he was going to be pretty good. I thought Man United would be pretty good. But Onana started the season terribly. Man United started the season terribly. But now all of a sudden, he's had some really, really good game weeks. And I think it just goes to show that goalkeepers in FPL, it doesn't really make that much sense. Like the best goalkeepers like Alisson and Ederson, yes, they will keep more clean sheets in total. But at the same time, they won't get that many saves and they won't get those mega scores as well that Onana and Areola and those guys in Pickford usually get. So that's why like the cheaper goalkeepers and just sticking with them for every single game week, good or bad fixture, I think might be the best case scenario basically. With how cheap goalkeepers have been the last few seasons and how nice we've had it with like 4.0 goalkeepers, we've sort of returned back to the rotating goalkeeper strategy, but it seems like it doesn't really work that much because it's really hard to predict goalkeeper points, and you should just stick with the same goalkeeper from a team that is not necessarily that good defensively either, but that has a chance to get clean sheets and has a chance to get a lot of saves as well. So Onana has just been a really good player in general for this team. And in this FPL season in general, he is 5.0, which is a bit too expensive for a goalkeeper. So it could ideally be a better goalkeeper duo, as we'll see with the best zombie squad. But still, Onana has been one of the best performing players for this team for what it's worth, at least, with 8 points in this game week as well. Haaland with 5 points as the captain, meaning he got 10 points in total. Maddison again back from injury, and he's been really good since then as well. He's definitely someone I'm looking to free hit in game week 29. And potentially someone you could keep for longer in the season as well. I think Maddison is an underrated asset at this point in time in FPL as well. Saka with another huge score, 9 points from him. Martinelli with 10 points as the vice captain. Didn't even need the captaincy chip to get a double-digit haul here. Martinelli has actually been pretty good in FPL lately as well. He's another player that has been sort of underrated, but now he's injured, obviously. But there are a lot of good Arsenal players in general. But speaking of good Arsenal players, Gabriel actually got a -1. I think this was the game week where he got the own goal, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, -1 point from him. Estepinian again, 1 pointer from him. Guardiola, Chilwell. The defense in general has been terrible, and Udogie is there on the bench as a really nice bench option, but he just doesn't come on because all these terrible defenders are playing rather than him. But at the start of the season, it looked really nice for, especially Chilwell was playing as basically like a wing back for Chelsea. Guardiola was coming into the City squad and was pretty cheap considering how good he could potentially be offensively. I think next season might be the season for Guardiola because he has so much skill and yeah, so many qualities that you want as a defender and even as an FPL asset going forward with the ball and stuff. But he needs some time to acclimatize to the Man City way, I guess. But the reason that I picked Guardiola at the start of the season was the fact that I've seen City defenders in the past come in and basically do a job from the get-go. Ruben Diaz needed no time to settle. Ake actually had a pretty good season in his first season as well for City. Akanji last season was absolutely amazing. Didn't need any time to be like the most trusted defender for City under Pep. So defensive-wise, they've actually looked pretty good new signings. But Guardiola has not really lived up to the hype so far. Gabriel has been amazing. He's been one of the best picks in this team by far, as we'll see in the final point tally as well. And Estepinian has just been a pretty huge disappointment after looking really good at the start of the season, then getting injured, and then now out and not playing that well in general, I think. But yeah, Diaby, another 1 pointer as well. Estepinian and Diaby, two players I had a lot of faith in before the start of the season, but now they're sort of out of favor, and that's something that will be hard to predict when you make a zombie squad before the start of the season. But 23 game weeks in, still not too bad of a squad, I think. Joao Pedro with 8 points on the bench this time. Udogie with 4 points on the bench. It seems like the bench players are actually more worthy to start than most of the starters, or some of the starters at least. But it is what it is, like I said. That was game week 23. Moving on to game week 24. One sub here. Guardiola didn't play in this game, and Alvarez came on, but only 2 points for Alvarez, so that didn't really help much at all. Game 24, you can see Saka getting 15 points, Gabriel getting 12 points. The Arsenal assets have been terrific and have been basically two of the best picks. Haaland as well with 26 points. That was his 2-goal haul against Everton. 2 really late goals against Everton, giving him 13 points times 2, meaning 26 points for Haaland, who surprisingly has not been the major supernova asset that we expected him to be. Partly it's down to him being a lot more expensive than last season, obviously. And also it's partly due to his injuries, which is why he hasn't been as profitable in FPL this season. But for this game week at least, 26 points, really nice. Saka at 15 points as well, 65 points in total. Not the worst score in the game week 24 squad, basically. Moving on to game week 25, and we have a score of 62 points. Haaland again, 10-pointer times 2 means 20 points as the captain. Saka at 15 points again. Saka is by far the best pick in this of the bunch, basically. He's also, spoilers, going to be in the summer team of the season because he's been probably the most consistent and best player this season for, I don't know, of course you have the cheaper players like Palmer, for example, who's been terrific for an even cheaper price, but Saka, for if money was no issue, he's basically been the most consistent guy outside of Watkins, I guess. He's been really, really good. Played every game week pretty much and gotten a lot of points, especially lately. Gabriel with another 6-pointer as well. Really nice, but I wish I would have doubled up on Arsenal defense rather than Arsenal attack. I did expect Arsenal to be still a really attacking squad, and I didn't really see this defensive juggernaut coming, even with Declan Rice coming in. I really should have seen it just based on that, but still, I don't really regret the Martinelli pick either. I think he has a lot of potential and could as well, like I said with Guardiola, could be another pick for next season's zombie team as well, because I think Martinelli has so much potential that is unlocked still in him, basically. 7 points from Alvarez as the substitute. That's also really nice to see. There's a reason why he was first bench, and that part of that reason was because if Haaland got injured, he would be the number one guy to come in for Haaland. And also, he's just a really nice player to have on the bench in general. He has been for this part of the season at least. But now that Kevin De Bruyne is back, maybe he's not going to be as good in FPL. But we'll just have to wait and see. That's not for this video at least, but that's for the next zombie update video, I think, to see how well he's doing from this point onwards in FPL. But yeah, other than that, not much to say about this game week either. So let's move on to game week 26. Game 26, 35 points. This is obviously the blank game week where both Chelsea and Spurs didn't have any matches. Brighton as well didn't have any matches, I think. So yeah, really hard to have a team to play in this game week, especially when Guardiola didn't get to play either. He was injured at this point. So the zombie team obviously will struggle in blank game weeks, which is going to be a big problem now in game week 29. And then also potentially in future game weeks as well, you won't be able to set up your team, obviously, with the zombie squad. And that means people who can do transfers like the rest of us playing FPL the normal way will have a huge advantage now that it's coming down to the business end of the season, basically. But yeah, 35 points in the blank game week. Basically having just 9 starters in total, and most of those starters getting 1 or 2 points as well. Exceptions are Haaland with 10 points, again, getting some returns as the captain. Martinelli with 6 points for Arsenal, and Saka with 10 points, another double-digit haul from Saka as well, which is, again, really nice to see, and I'm really happy to have Saka both in the zombie squad, and I've had him in my own squad for the entirety of the season as well, so he's been a really, really good pick in general. Game week 27, and we have another pretty good score from Martinelli. This is the part of the season where Martinelli has been really good. Saka with 7 points this time. Decent. Haaland again with a small contribution as the captain as well. 12 points for him in total. Alvarez coming in with 4 points off the bench. And again, apart from that, not really much to write home about, except for Rashford, who got 7 points in game week 27. Looking back at game week 27, that was when Man United played against Man City, actually. That was just this past game week where he scored that rocket of a goal. So pretty decent score from Martinelli last game week. Ended up with 59 points for the zombie squad, which is an okay return. I think around 60 points is usually where you're trying to aim for when it comes to a regular game week in FPL. So 59 points is not something to be too sad about when it comes to, especially a zombie squad, for example. So yeah. Game week 28, which is obviously this current game week that just happened, and sadly only 10 players available because Guardiola wasn't ready to play. You could also see Martinelli has been injured, Joao Pedro is injured, and Chilwell is injured, so only 10 players ready to play. Madison with 9 points, really nice. Rashford again with a decent score with 8 points, really nice for him. Onana with 11 points, fantastic from him. Udogie and Estupiñán stepping up with clean sheets of their own. 6 points for Estupiñán, 6 points for Udogie. So 50 points in game week 28, which I think is a pretty good score. Obviously, this is a double game week for Bournemouth and Luton assets, so it might still change because I'm recording this video before the Wednesday game between Bournemouth and Luton. So maybe there's a huge hole there for Solanke and those guys, which will help every other squad than the zombie squads, basically, because Bournemouth and Luton players were pretty far down the list of potential players for the zombie squad, at least at the start of the season for me. But as we'll see with the best potential zombie squad, there is actually a Bournemouth player in the team, and actually a Luton player as well, which we'll get to pretty soon. But first, let's take a wrap up of how we are looking so far with the zombie squad. And if you had picked the team that I picked at the start of the season as my zombie squad, you would have been ranked around 5 million in the world currently, which is not good, obviously. But in terms of like being a zombie squad, I'm not sure if that's too bad. I think there are a couple players or a couple people that have zombie squads that are watching my video. So please tell me how you're doing. If you have a zombie squad of your own, how are you doing with your overall rank? I think it's a really tough thing to do. As you can see from the team, there are a lot of mistakes here and a couple of decent picks as well. But at the same time, it's pretty far away from the optimal zombie team that you could have had so far, which we'll get to pretty soon. But yeah, 50 game week points this past game week for this zombie squad. 1,419 points in total, which is 359 points behind me. I have 1,777 points currently. And it's also 512 points behind the leader currently, who has 511 points, I think, actually. But yeah, around that point, which is around 1930 or 1,930 points, I think, is the number one player currently in FPL so far. So let's see if we can beat that when it comes to the zombie squad, if we had selected the optimal zombie squad at the start of the season. Obviously, with hindsight, as we couldn't have predicted all the things that would have happened, because yeah, that would be really hard to do. And actually, as you'll see, you would have been able to be number one in the world if you had picked this squad from the start of the season and kept it until now. No captaincy changes, no chips used, no transfers, no changes in the lineup, no nothing. Just let it be. It would have taken you to the number one overall rank in total. So Areola in goal, he's been a surprise. He was actually like a pretty popular player, especially until Turner became like the de facto 4.0 goalkeeper. As you can see from my own zombie team, I had Turner as the 4.0 goalkeeper because there were some doubts about Areola being the starter for West Ham. But he's been the starter for West Ham, and he's also been kind of annoying as a player for most people in FPL because he's been benched every time he has hauled. He has like 5 or 6 game weeks where he has gotten like double-digit returns almost, and that's most of his points from those 5 game weeks. But that's game weeks where most people have actually benched him. So really hard done by if you've had Areola and you've benched him for a lot of his hauls. But in this instance, with Areola as the starting goalkeeper and then Pickford ready on the bench for the 3 game weeks that Areola missed, Areola got 101 points by himself, and then the 3 game weeks he missed, Pickford picked up 23 points in game week 15, 16, and 17, I think. So that's a huge score of 124 points from the goalkeeper rotation, basically, only using 8.5 on goalkeepers, which is absolutely amazing. Really good value there in general. Defensively, Ben White has been the best defender in the game. He is starting. Saliba also in the game for Arsenal. He is on the bench just to make sure that Porro and his huge hauls and his better points per match gets into the team. Saliba, the matches where Saliba doesn't get to contribute are basically 1 and 2 pointers mostly. Pretty lucky there in terms of their rotation, so that basically helps the team have enough points to be the number 1 team overall currently. So that's really nice. Saliba White, obviously there. Saka, like I mentioned a couple times already, he's been an amazing pick, 178 points. He barely missed out as the vice captain. I think he scored 2 points less than Foden in the game weeks that Salah missed. And Salah again, he was sort of written off at the start of the season. Even for me, I made a pretty huge case for Salah in your Game Week 1 squad this current season, but I still didn't have him in my zombie squad because I still expected Haaland to be the more valuable pick out of the two, and it would have been tough to have both of them. As you can see, there's no Haaland in this team. There's only Salah because, yeah, Salah's just been cheaper and better than Haaland this season. Higher points per match, and that's why it's the best captaincy choice. And for the game weeks that he has missed, Foden has been absolutely amazing. Saka's been amazing as well. Son and Palmer as well are doing really well currently, so I think this team is looking pretty good for the entirety of the season as well. With Porro being back now, Trent is still really good asset. Yeah, I wouldn't be too sad about having this squad as my wildcard team and just sticking with it for the end of the season because I think it looks pretty good. But obviously, you want to maximize the game weeks that are coming up, the double game weeks, especially in game week 34 and 37. So you could get a better team than this for the rest of the season, obviously. But I think this is a really strong team, and especially if you had this team from the start until the finish of the season, or not the finish, but from the start of the season till now, game 28, basically, you would have been number 1 overall, which is kind of crazy, seeing as it is no chips, no transfers, no nothing, basically. But yeah, defense, Trent and Porro, been really good points per game type of players. Trent actually has scored less points than Trippier, but he has better points per match. And the couple of blank game weeks that Trent has allows the likes of Bradley, who is basically his replacement, to come in. So that's a really nice rotation there with Trent and Bradley. I actually thought about doing the same thing for Reece James and Gusto at the start of the season. That would have worked out decently, but Gusto has basically been the one playing all the games. So That would have been a waste of the Reece James spot. But I wish I had Reece James rather than Chilwell, basically, and then Gusto as the replacement in my own team, because that would have been pretty profitable, because Gusto has been pretty decent this season for a pretty cheap price. Pedro Porro been really good. He's been one of the template picks lately as well in FPL, especially now that he's back fit again. I think he's going to be a pretty popular pick in general, unless you want to go with Udogi like I did in my own zombie squad, because he's a bit cheaper than Pedro Porro, and I thought he was going to be more of a nailed and more of an attacking player than Porro, because I didn't expect Porro to get set pieces this season, because I thought Madison would be on set pieces for the entirety of the season, basically. But yeah, really expensive midfield apart from Palmer, obviously. Salah 12.5, Foden is 7.5, and he's having a tremendous season, especially as he is the vice captain and got a lot of extra points from that alone. 215 points with all the vice captaincy points that he would have gotten in the last few game weeks if he had this team from the start until the finish. Watkins as well, really good player, could have been a captain as well, but Salah has just been better when it comes to points per match, and it also obviously rotates really nicely with Foden coming in as the best captaincy choice with Salah out of the team as well. So just a really nicely set up team in general, and I guess you could have predicted this at the start of the season. There are a lot of like popular and good FPL picks here. Ben White was sort of looked down upon because Saliba and Gabriel are cheaper, and to be fair, it's not much between them. You could have had Gabriel here, but you don't really need the money. Obviously, you could have had a better squad if you had Haaland rather than Solanke, for example, but that's basically the only change you could have done, because I think most of these players are like among the highest scoring players in their position currently in FPL, especially the starters. Moving on to the strikers, Watkins and Solanke. Watkins has been absolutely terrific, probably the best player in FPL this season, apart from Palmer, I guess. Just for the price of Palmer, 5.0 at the start of the season is absolutely amazing. Seeing how good he is currently, absolutely amazing to watch. But Solanke as well, for what it's worth, 7.0, a really good player to have as well. 130 points, obviously has a double game week coming up now, so at least he's in the team now. If he does something magical in that second game against Luton, which we are all hoping for, those of us with him as a captain, or especially as a triple captain this game week. But even still in the zombie squad, you'll have Solanke to get those points, so it's not going to be too far behind. I think this team will still be number one, even after the Bournemouth Luton game finishes. But Game 29 onwards, it's probably going to be tougher for the zombie squad to survive, because it's going to have less players available for that game week. So looking at now the players that are available for Game 29 with the zombie squad, you have Areola, you have Porro, you have Son, and you have Watkins, and you have Morris. So that's basically 5 players for Game 29. So obviously this team will suffer in Game 29, and that's partly why I did the zombie squad video update now, because I wanted this potential number 1 overall ranked team out before it's going to be a struggle for the zombie squads out there in general. But yeah, thought this was pretty interesting. This team would have been 166 points ahead of my own team, even though I'm around top 10k currently. So yeah, just tells you something about how amazingly well you could have done if you had hindsight to pick your squad, basically. But yeah, I think it's just a nice thing to see. I think it's pretty fun to set up these teams normally as well, but this time it was actually pretty easy. It was just picking the players with the most points, because you can afford it, basically. It was just downgrading Haaland to fit in some players and then switch around a couple of players. But obviously, I think there are better rotations, better ways you can do this, potentially, especially players coming off the bench. Bradley makes sense. He is the highest points per match per player, and he's been ready to step up whenever Trent has been missing, so it fits perfectly, basically. Saliba is just a really consistent player who gets like 6-7 types of points every single game week, and Morris has been really handy these last few game weeks when he's been ready to play with Salah out, for example, where he's gotten a lot of points. So in total, a really, really good zombie squad. Excited to see what's going to happen for the rest of the season, and excited to see if we can actually finish with the number 1 overall rank with the best zombie squad in Game Week 38 as well, because I've done a video before where I've looked through the best zombie squads of the last few seasons. In some seasons you can actually win FPL with the same squad the entire season, and that's why it's kind of fun to do this, I think, as well. Just living with the dream of potentially finishing at least pretty high with the same team for the entirety of the season. I think there are a couple teams probably around the top 10k or higher than top 10k that haven't done a single transfer this whole season as well. I haven't actually checked up on that, but I'm guessing FPL Focal has, another content creator, has a pretty good idea who has the best squad without doing any transfers, because somehow he finds those squads, but I don't know how to do that. But currently you could have been number 1 if you had this squad from the start of the season until now. And I think that's pretty interesting. If you found that interesting as well, please like the video and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. If you want to see me update the zombie squad as well, I think I'm probably going to do it around game week 33 before the game week 34 double game week. And then I'm probably going to do the final update in game week 38 once the season has finished and we can see what my zombie squad did for the entirety of the season and also what the best zombie squad possible would have been for the entirety of the season. I think it's pretty interesting. It says something about the value of all the players. Salah has been basically in the best zombie squad in like 6 of the last 7 seasons or something. Even him being so expensive, he's still worth it. As you can see, the expensive players are worth it. Son is 9.0 or was 9.0 at the start of the season. Trent Alexander-Arnold was 8.0 at the start of the season. The expensive players really are worth it in FPL, and now we can actually afford most of the expensive players as well, with how cheap the pricing is for some of the players like Palmer, for example, who's an amazing pick for a really, really cheap price. So yeah, with that, I'm going to leave you there with the video. Hope you enjoyed it, like I said earlier, and I hope to see you next time. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.